everybody, welcome back to the channel. Here we are talking about my TBR again. So last year I uploaded a video that was my entire physical TBR at the time, and it was 120 books long, and now from that stack we have gotten down to 95, so that's good. We read some of the books. However, I have added a lot of books to my physical collection, and I actually wasn't adding them to that number. And now, instead of being overwhelmed by the amount of books that are in my TBR, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of books that aren't on my TBR. I thought we could do a little bit of like a TBR reset kind of thing. And I will show you guys all the books that are currently on my TBR once again. Okay, so before we get into the actual books, I want to lay down a couple ground rules for myself. So number one is that I really want to prioritize my TBR. Like I said, last year I was able to read 25 books off the TBR that I did have, and I definitely read other books that I didn't put on my TBR as well, so we did get a good chunk of that done. So I believe that if I really make an effort to prioritize these books, that I will be able to read a lot of them. I'm also really not allowing myself to buy books. So rule number two is that the books that I can buy are books that are for a book club or books that I have like really been wanting, and I have a gift card. And I say that because I do in fact have a gift card, so that can work out. And lastly, I know I said I was prioritizing my TBR, but I will give myself a little leeway with books that are part of series that I have already started. For example, I only have one book left in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, so that is up for grabs as well. Those are the rules. Now let's get into the actual books. I've got some fun little categories that I organized all the books into just to spice things up a little because we've got a lot of books to get through. Okay, so the first category of books we have are the books that I am currently reading. So we have Bazaar of Bad Dreams by Stephen King, which is a short story collection. Also by Stephen King, we have Dolores Claiborne. I only have about 50 pages left in this, so hopefully we'll finish this soon. Next, I have The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is a book that I'm reading with my mom for our book club. Next, the book I am very excited about finishing is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is a 5-star prediction for me, and we are definitely headed in that direction. So once again, very excited to finish it. Next, we have Whoology by Kevin Scott and Mark Wright. This is just a whole plethora, basically, of Doctor Who nerd shit. Last am I currently reading, and this book is going to take me a long time to finish, but that's okay because it's a collection. But it is Edgar Allan Poe's Complete Tales and Poems. So this is a chunky boy. It's got everything. Literally everything. The dust jacket is somewhere. I am slowly making my way through this. I even, with transparent sticky notes, I made little check boxes so I don't have to read everything in order, and I can just read what I want, check it off, and move on. Seems a lot less daunting that way. Okay, now let's get into every other book that I have yet to read. First, let's start off with a category that literally nobody is surprised by, and that is my Percy Jackson Universe category. So we have some of the actual novels in the universe. So we have the Magnus Chase series. So those are The Sword of Summer, The Hammer of Thor, and The Ship of the Dead. And one that I cannot believe I haven't read already, and that is The Sun and the Star, Chalice of the Gods, which is technically number 6 in the original Percy Jackson books, which crazy, we have another one. Next, we have a couple of chunky boys here with Percy Jackson's Greek Gods and Percy Jackson's Greek Heroes. Then we've got all the little companion novels, novellas, whatever. First, we've got Demigods and Magicians, Camp Half-Blood Confidential, The Demigod Files, The Demigod Diaries, 9 from the 9 Worlds, Camp Jupiter Classified, The Brooklyn House Magician's Manual, The Guide to the Norse Worlds, The Percy Jackson and the Olympians Ultimate Guide, and finally, The King Chronicles Survival Guide. Next, let's go over some of the books that I have in fantasy series. So first we have the last 4 books in the Chronicles of Narnia. So that is Prince Caspian, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. We've also got the Hunger Games series, which is no longer a trilogy. I guess it's now a series. So we, of course, have The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, which I have read these 3 books before, but I did want to read them again before I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I also have Midnight Sun, which is a part of the Twilight series, and the rest of the books aren't in here because I already read them very recently, so we're just adding this one into the pile. Also have the Maybird series, which is a favorite from my childhood, and those are Maybird and the Ever After, Maybird Among the Stars, and Maybird Warrior Princess. We also have the Slayer Chronicles, which is a spin-off series to the Chronicles of Vladimir Todd, which I did in fact read last year. So for these we have First Kill, Second Chance, and Third Strike. We also have the first 3 books in the Maximum Ride series. So we have The Angel Experiment, School's Out Forever, and Saving the World and Other Extreme Sports. And last but absolutely not least in this category, we do have the Lord of the Rings series. So we have The Hobbit, which is the prequel to the series. Then we have The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. So those were all series that I'm really excited for, so let's do some standalones that I'm really excited for. So first we have Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory by Raphael Bob Waksberg, who is in fact the creator of BoJack Horseman, which is one of my favorite shows, and I did in fact pick this up like literally 2 days ago, and it might be the book I'm most excited about. We also have The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Also by Shirley Jackson, we have Always Lived in the Castle, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I will in fact be reading this for one of my upcoming book clubs, and I'm very excited about it. Next we have This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El-Mohar and Max Gladstone, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, and Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Next up are books that have been on my list for just a little bit too long to be concerning. First we have 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke, Graceling by Kristen Cashore, The Second Efren Allen by Megan Nasso, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs, Marked by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, A Short History of Woman by Kate Walbert, Asylum by Madeline Rowe, and A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. Next, let's get into my various Stephen King books that I have. So for these, we have The Stand, The Institute, 4 Past Midnight, If It Bleeds, Firestarter, Later, The Outsider, and finally, Dr. Sleep. Next, we have a fun little category of books that are based off of media that already exist. You'll see what I mean. So we have Alien by Alan Dean Foster, We Don't Need Roads, The Making of the Back to the Future trilogy by Cassine Gaines, and finally, The Doctor's Lives and Times by James Goss and Steve Tribe. Next, a not as exciting category, nonfiction. So we have Half the Sky by Nicholas D. Kristoff and Cheryl Woodan, The Secret History of Cults by Peter Haining, Moon Magic by Diane Alquist, You're Not Lost by Maxie McCoy, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Next we have a bit of a funnier category, and that is books that I was supposed to read in school and just did not, because who wanted to do that? So we have The Crucible by Arthur Miller, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, The River King by Alice Hoffman, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, Reading Lolita in Tehran by Azar Nafizi, Shakespeare Sonnets by, obviously Shakespeare. Also by Shakespeare we have Macbeth and A Midsummer Night's Dream, an English romantic poetry anthology edited by Stanley Applebaum, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, A Room with a View by E.M. Forster, The Awakening and Selected Short Fiction by Kate Chopin, and lastly, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Next, in a similar sense, we have books that I actually did read in school that I literally don't remember, but I know I like them, so I'd like to read them again and appreciate them. First, we have The Diary of a Young Girl, Letters from Rivka by Karen Hess, which, yes, this is a children's book. I said I was going to read it, so we're going to read it. Atonement by Ian McGowan, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Also by Shakespeare, we have Hamlet, and finally, Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. Let's stick with the theme of classics for a bit and go over my New York Post Family Classics library books that I still have to read. So those are The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, The Hound of Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, Emma by Jane Austen, and Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. Other books that I have a collection of are the Barnes & Noble's Leatherbound editions, so let's go over those. First, we have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Other Stories by Lewis Carroll. This one's chunky for sure. Dracula by Bram Stoker, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Other Stories by Robert Louis Stevenson, and finally, Greek Myths by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Next, we have a very small category, and that category is I'm Very Scared of You. And the book that I'm very scared of is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I don't know who I thought I was picking up this damn book. Next category is books I just didn't know how to categorize, so they're in an other category. First we have Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, Dante's Inferno, which is the beautiful illustrated edition, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, Mythology by Edith Hamilton, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, The Cycle by John Wayne Communal, and lastly we have Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sujimura. We have one less category, and that category is all-time favorites, and there's only one book in that category, and that is Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Obviously a reread. Okay, y'all, if my calculations are correct, that means we have 125 books, which is 5 more than my last TBR video. So let's definitely try to get this number down. I really believe, especially because like 10 of these are small novellas from Rick Riordan, so like those will not take a long time to get through. I'm also really excited about a lot of these books, and I have so many plans. So like something I would love to do is doing little vlogs for like each series that I read kind of thing. We'll do some other fun videos. Like I got a lot of ideas up here, and it feels good to finally like add all of these books and like not stress about reading stuff and not even be like, there was that guilt of like not being able to cross it off my TBR, even though it was a book that I physically owned. So it's like, let's just get all these books onto the TBR. We don't have to stress. And that's it. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. And I am just looking all around me, and there are so many books. I will insert a clip of all of them laid out. It's quite funny. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me as we refresh my TBR. I'm so excited to get to some of these, and hopefully we will be able to get to a good chunk of them. I also plan on my TikTok to do like little mini videos and be like, hey, I'm reading this book off my TBR and I finished it, here's my star rating, and then like we'll come on here and do a fuller review type of thing. So if you want to see that, go follow my TikTok. It's linked in the description. I hate self-promoting. And subscribe to see if I'm actually able to get through all of these books, which, you know, we'll see. I do have faith, and I hope you do too. But yeah, that is everything. So thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to take care of yourselves today. Bye!